Hi guys, you're about to watch the free podcast of the Young Turks, fun for everybody. Now, you understand that there's only 2 of our segments. We do a live 2-hour show every day, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern.
And if you want to hear the entire show, all you have to do is become a member. Sign up by going to TYT-08.05.14.
You can go under member options to become a member, and when you do that, it's totally convenient. You can either stream or download the show, audio or video. Plus, you get more of our network shows. There's no ads whatsoever, and you help support the show. So, TYTnetwork.com. We'll see you there.
Welcome to the Young Turks. I'm Anna Kasparian. We have an awesome panel for you guys today. We have Michael Shore, and we also have Jimmy Dore.
Hi, everybody.
So you know it's going to be a fun show. Cenk is out of town. He will be back tomorrow, for those of you who are wondering.
Do you think anybody looks at Jimmy and I and says, well, you know it's going to be a fun show?
Well, yeah. We have.
Good. All right.
You guys are both intelligent and also both humorous, but you bring the facts of the political stories. And Jimmy brings the freaking fire
the
and the comedic relief.
Anger, the rage instilled in me by my sober alcoholic father.
And I'm in the middle just giving you guys some information,
Fantastic.
right?
We'll take it.
Okay, so we have important stories to get to in the hour, but I thought I would start off with a little bit of fun by talking about what happened with a CNN international correspondent recently. So a CNN international correspondent by the name of Arwa Damon is facing some charges after she allegedly bit 2 U.S. Embassy EMT members in Baghdad. Now, she was on assignment, and apparently she hadn't eaten much, but she had a few drinks, and so she became unruly. While she became unruly, she allegedly bit 2 individuals who have filed the lawsuit against her. Now, according to the lawsuit that has been filed in the New York State Supreme Court, Damon has a, quote, history of becoming intoxicated and abusive. And just to give you a better sense of what the plaintiffs are claiming, Charles Simons and Tracy Lamar, EMTs who were working for a private contractor, alleged in a suit that they were providing assistance to an intoxicated Damon when she bit and threatened them while saying that she was, quote, a major reporter for CNN. And then also the attorney says that she was biting them both pretty furiously. She has good teeth. Eventually, they subdued her.
Yeah. Well, that's actually a stage name for Wolf Blitzer. So it's totally not made up. It is a major CNN.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the story sort of speaks for itself in that,
it does.
in the way. First of all, the way people react to this stuff.
I'm actually just a little surprised because from my experience, guys like it when you bite a little bit. So It's just weird that all of a sudden they want to file lawsuits. I mean, what's next?
You know what is funny is that I'm sure there was a lot of people who'd like to...
Jimmy just lost his total train of thought the second you said that. He said, really?
So my wife won't let me bite her, and I don't know what it is, but it's like an animal thing. I like burgers, and I like biting my wife. But anyway... I forget what I was saying, and there's a lot of people who I bet would like to bite a CNN reporter. You know what I mean? Like, you fucking piece of shit. And like Michael Moore, I'm sure he wanted to take a chunk out of Wolf Blitzer and Sanjay Gupta.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But this is the opposite. This is the dog bites man, right?
But
we're supposed to be biting the dog.
Don't you think? I mean, the idea of medics suing, though. I mean. Do you think that they would sue just anybody because she said she's? It happens to medics all the time.
All
they
the time.
Crazy people or drunk people or whatever. They get bitten. They wear gloves.
Yes.
So
it's ironic that she thought saying that she's a big CNN reporter would help her cause, but it did the exact opposite.
Right.
It actually hurt her.
Got her
They're
sued,
like,
yeah.
oh, all right, well, we'll sue your ass and we'll see how it goes. She did release a statement, though, so let me read you her statement. She's obviously very remorseful, which makes me feel a little bad for her because she has a problem with drinking. If you drink and you become that unruly, there are underlying issues there. But she says the following.
You never blacked out drunk?
No.
Good for you.
I've never blacked out. I've gotten really drunk, like to the point where I'm like, oh, I need someone to take care of me. But I don't get angry or bitey when I'm drunk. I only get bitey when I'm excited. So anyway, let's move on.
There he goes again.
So let me read you her statement. By the way, guys, I'm sort of joking around. She says, it's been an extremely stressful time.
That doesn't help. To say you're sort of joking. Right. So you're sort of not joking.
Right.
I was exhausted.
Sort of.
She says, I was exhausted. All right. I had not had proper food all day and clearly miscalculated how my body would handle the alcohol consumed. Needless to say, I am utterly mortified and take full responsibility for my actions, which are inexcusable.
She gets a total pass.
I think she gets a pass.
Total pass.
But you know what? You'll never hear that statement from a guy high on weed. You'll never go, God, I miscalculated how much weed, and then I just start fucking biting everybody. That'll never happen unless it's really good weed and you're hungry.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Everybody meeting every dessert, I see.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Or, if the EMTs. Anyway, go ahead. Mm-hmm. I was going to say something stupid. Go ahead.
Okay, the only other point I was going to make is, look, we don't have any evidence of the damage that was done, so who knows? She might have actually caused serious injuries, right? Mm-hmm. So in that case, she should face charges. I have no idea what the injuries were.
But that's what I'm talking about. Should she face charges? I mean, she was being helped by medics, and I'm conjecturing that this happens all the time.
Well,
constantly. And because she's had she not screamed that she's a major CNN contributor, or correspondent, which I think is probably the biggest part of what mortifies her. Not the drinking, not the biting, that she would just blurt that out. This is who I am. You're messing with the wrong.
It's like the guy, I'm in the mafia. It's like that.
That usually works, though.
You look like an idiot.
By the way, I'm totally burying the lead. She's actually being sued for $1 million.
Herself personally?
Yes.
Wow.
So the EMT members are actually suing her. She's not facing criminal charges, so let me be absolutely clear about that.
Yeah.
They're coming after her in a civil suit.
I predict a settlement.
Yeah, there probably will be a settlement, and that probably makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
This is what I wonder, though. Like, she had the full apology, which I think is the reason why we're like, oh, yeah, off the hook, right? But you kind of, after doing it, isn't this kind of thing you don't want to admit it just in case you want to settle or say that didn't really happen that way, maybe I'll need to spend all this money on this settlement. You can say, oh, it wasn't that bad, I didn't do it, and then you go through the whole process. I don't know if this is giving it away. As soon as you say, yeah, I take full responsibility, then they go, okay, how about $1 million? You know?
When you say that? Yeah, but I mean, you take full responsibility for acting like an idiot. But that doesn't mean that you acted like $1 million worth of idiot, you know, and there are legal protections that she would have even if she was responsible.
Oh no, I mean you go to emergency rooms, they have to hold people down all the time, and people go. So
they're just not all CNN except for Blitzer. They're not all CNN correspondents that they're dealing with.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to actual news, some serious news today. Two dreamers, two undocumented immigrants who came to the country when they were extremely young and it was out of their control, actually approached Representative Stephen King as he was sitting and enjoying his lunch. And the reaction was really interesting. They wanted to talk to him about the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, which is something that the Obama administration pushed for. And it would ensure that people who came into the country when they were extremely young would have the ability to remain in the country for an additional 2 years with a work visa. Now, Representative King is against that, and he's been very, very vocal about it. And that is precisely the reason why Erica Andiola and Cesar Vargas approached him. So let's take a look at the first video.
I'm actually a dreamer myself, and I'm originally from Mexico, but I've been raised here. I graduated from Arizona State University, actually, and Arizona State University. And I know you want to get rid of DACAs. I want to give you the opportunity. If you really want to get rid of it, just raise mine.
All right. So just really quick. The person that you see walking away in that clip is Rand Paul. And people are really focusing on that because it just seemed like as soon as she mentioned who she was and why she was there, he was like, no interest in it.
It's like, gather my stuff and get the hell out of here. I spoke to a reporter who was there in Iowa at this event, and he said that Rand, really, it was like he ran away. Like he got, after he leaves the screen, he's really moving away very quickly to get away from this conversation about dreamers. And Steve King is probably the most odious of all Congress people. My 9-year-old son asked me who my least favorite politician was the other day, and I said Steve King.
Your 9-year-old son is asking you questions like that?
Well, yeah,
that's
because
amazing.
he doesn't know who Steve King is. He can't name a congressman, but he can name.
It's a tough race, though, isn't it, Michael? I mean, you got Louis Gohmert, you got Michelle Bachmann.
It is. Louis Gohmert is stupid. Michelle Bachmann is sensational. Steve King is odious. He's just a bad guy. I mean, they all are horrible, but they all sort of take up different parts of the landscape. Louis Gohmert is a dumb guy. He's dumb bad.
Yeah.
And Steve King's not dumb. And Steve King, and we'll see more of this, I suspect. He did a very good job I thought, in engaging these people. And that's what's even scarier about it for me, is that he's unwavering.
Ready.
He's ready. I think if I were a Steve King supporter, I would be flouting this video, because I think that he did, and we'll see more of it, but I think that he did a pretty good job.
You think he did a good job?
I do.
That's
even though I don't obviously support him at all. I was tweeting this last night as soon as I saw it after midnight. I was tweeting it all over the place, telling people to make this thing viral. This is fantastic for Dreamers. This is what they're up against. But they were up against a formidable opponent, and they are.
Yeah, but he's Steve King. You say he's odious, but he's just upset with the Mexicans with the calves-like grapefruits that are bringing drugs across the border. That's what he said, right?
Yeah.
They're 90 pounds and they got calves like grapefruits.
Calves like grapefruits.
Calves. What did I say?
Caps.
I said calf. I meant calves.
Yeah.
And he also didn't mention that they have tits like pickles. He missed that one.
Right.
And
What did you mean there? What did you mean there?
I'm not sure, but nuts like watermelons too they have. And that's from, anyway.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to skip ahead to video number 3, where you hear a little more questioning coming from the people who approached Representative King. Let's take a look.
To be fighting so much against Dreamers, calling us names, saying that we have to have some animals.
I say no. That's drug smuggling. Please. You're very good. Stop a minute. You're very good at English. You know what I'm saying.
I was raised in the United States.
Right, so you can understand the English language. So don't act like you don't.
You're very good at English.
That was just a little condescending.
Which is
Do you
bad
think
English.
she understands
I've never
what that
seen
word
anyone
means?
with that skin tone speak English like this, young lady.
You're very good at English,
Right, which
is improper
Congressman,
English.
you're not. Right.
It's ironic. Wow, it's funny that you're not white and you can speak English somehow. That's crazy.
And it's funny that I am and I can't.
And I can't. And you're probably more educated than me. Isn't that funny? But you're brown, but you're still worse than me as a person.
Yeah, she is a graduate of Arizona State University, and so she mentioned that to him. She gave him her identification card, which is what you see in her hand, and said, go ahead, rip it up. Since you're against me being here, go ahead and do it. And the part of that video that actually bothered me the most was the fact that he went in and grabbed her hand.
Grabbed her hand.
Because it wasn't a friendly grab, it was a form of intimidation.
Yes.
I took it as a form of intimidation, and it was unnecessary. And I think she handled it really well, because had I been in that situation, I'd be like, don't fucking touch me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That too. Like, what are you doing?
Exactly.
Don't touch me. I would have maybe even pushed him.
Yeah.
But I would have definitely. But they'll switch the thing. Now, let's say it wasn't a white congressman and a Mexican girl. Let's say it was a Mexican congressman and a white girl, and he grabbed her hand like that. They'd still be talking about this 6 months from now on Fox News and The Blaze and everywhere else. Oh my God, look at this.
Do we want
violent.
these excitable folks to come across the border?
Yeah.
So we have one more video for you guys. Let's take a quick look at that.
But
Thank you,
please,
sir.
do not erode the rule
and
of law in America.
if you want to rip it, let me know. I will bring it
That
back.
would be a nice
if
video
you want to
op
get
for
rid
you,
of
but
it,
that's not gonna happen.
it's going to be something that you've been advocating for, and I was just giving you the opportunity to
When
do
I
it.
go
Right in her fucking face. She was really good. I thought she did a good job.
She was
right there.
fantastic. And what you didn't hear in these clips, which if you watch the entire clip, and you can, I'm sure it'll be, I don't know, will it be posted on Young Turks? You can go to my Twitter and you can see it. There's somebody off camera who is screaming, "Go back to your country. You're not American. Go back to your country." So it's get out of here. Get out of here. It's one person. I asked my reporter friend who was there, because I thought it was a lot of, it sounded like there were a number of people, and I was horrified by that, and he said it was actually one guy who was screaming.
But I'm sure all the other decent people in Iowa booed that guy down.
Oh, of course they did. The same way they did during the Republican debates when they were saying that about, all this. They just booed that person.
Yeah.
Escort that guy out of here.
Yes, they have a branding problem, the Republicans. They have a branding problem. It's not that they're all pieces of shit.
Right.
It's that they have a branding problem.
No, what's incredible about the Republican Party, and specifically Republican members of Congress that are against really reforming immigration and all of our issues, is that they do the fear-mongering, right? They make it seem as though the vast majority of people who come to this country illegally are trying to cause harm to society. They're trying to steal our jobs. They're murderers. They're violent. They're crazy. We have to look out for them. It's war on white people. It's just crazy fear-mongering. But if you look at these two individuals that approached Representative King, the woman, Erica Andiola, came into the United States when she was 11 years old. I'm guessing she didn't do that on her own. Her family probably brought her here. Yes, they brought her here here illegally. But since then, she has been a good member of society. She graduated from Arizona State University. She's an activist. She wants to contribute to society, be a productive member of society. The other guy that was there, unfortunately, you didn't see him in these videos, Cesar Vargas, I apologize. He actually passed the bar. But he can't practice law because he's undocumented.
And he's been here since he's 5 years old, so he had absolutely nothing to do with the family decision to come to the United States. And yet he has done enough to be in law. And he also wanted to join the military, and he wasn't able to because of his undocumented status.
Could there be anything more American than sons and daughters of immigrants violently screaming against new immigrants for becoming citizens?
Yeah.
Is there anything more, especially these people? We're a nation of immigrants. You know, Steve King, I know he thinks he's an American because he was born in America, but his parents and grandparents were born somewhere else.
Right.
So we're a nation of immigrants. And by the way, they've done studies, which I know doesn't matter to Republicans because it involves intelligence, which is very anti-Republican. So what they've done, they've studied it. States with the most immigrants, best economies. How the fuck could that happen? Even undocumented workers push up the wages of the other workers in that state. So this is what's called studied by professors and smarty pants people and not dickheads like Steve King. So this is just xenophobia. This is just me not liking you because you're brown, you're different. In America, we're supposed to welcome foreigners. I don't know if you've read the Statue of Liberty, but that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, Statue of Liberty is a statue.
Yeah, but there's a poem. You know that poem?
Oh, good. Yeah.
Give me your poor, huddled, tired masses yearning to breathe free.
And not to mention, this is the party that embraces religion and Christianity at every turn and brings God into every conversation.
Yes,
fights in the Supreme Court
when it's inconvenient for them.
Except love thy neighbor, not so much.
Yeah,
so much.
They cherry pick parts of their religion that meets their agenda.
You know, and I got into an argument with somebody last night on Twitter about that. You know, I said, well, I guess you're not a Christian, because he was his whole thing was save California, is because save California from the immigrants, right? Got some news.
Get the Mexicans out of San Diego.
and he was saying, he said that, so I said, well, I guess you're not a Christian. I got a lot of pleasure out of that tweet. I was like, well, I guess you're not a Christian, but there's a biblical history to this too. And it kind of shut him up, but then he started citing pieces of the Bible because it's the most convenient piece of fiction that there is.
Yes.
He cites little pieces of it that support his argument. Right. Or her argument, I don't know who.
Yeah, so, that's but that's my that's what's wrong with religion, right? Because you can pick and cherry pick and all the thing. And then, people like that are just using religion as a battering ram to beat, people over the head with and push their discrimination on other people.
Yeah.
And then the other people who are considered good religious people give cover to those people. So, which is why I'm against religion in every situation. Okay. Right. Even when it's good.
All right, one more story regarding immigrant fear-mongering. So when it comes to immigrant or undocumented immigrant fear-mongering, Republican Representative Mo Brooks is definitely not an exception. He is a representative from Alabama, and recently he was talking to Laura Ingraham about how liberals have launched a war on white people. Take a look.
Let's talk, though, about what the quote, lamestream media is saying about this. Ron Fournier, who's been on the show many times, from the National Journal, was on Fox News Sunday, Congressman Brooks, saying this.
The fastest growing voting bloc in this country thinks the Republican Party hates them. This party, your party, cannot be the party of the future beyond November if you're seen as the party of white people.
Your reaction?
Well, this is a part of the war on whites that's being launched by the Democratic Party. And the way in which they're launching this war is by claiming that whites hate everybody else. It's a part of the strategy that Barack Obama implemented in 2008, continued in 2012, where he divides us all on race, on sex, greed, envy, class warfare, all those kinds of things. Well, that's not true.
So I just love that statement because it's a perfect example of the fear-mongering that takes place whenever you try to have a rational discussion about comprehensive immigration reform. The Obama administration pushed for comprehensive immigration reform. Fortunately, it passed in the Senate, and of course the House did not allow it to pass, right? And part of the reason why is because you have these conservative Republicans that are against any type of comprehensive immigration reform. And the reason why they do it is because they don't give a shit about a pathway to citizenship.
Right.
They don't care about the Latino vote. They claim that they care about the Latino vote. They claim that they have a branding problem, but the reality is they don't care about this particular demographic. And the fact that they want to go after Obama for wanting to do an executive order to actually pass some sort of comprehensive immigration reform is absolutely ridiculous. That's the war on white people, right?
And Brooks has himself sponsored, I think it's 14 bills that are anti-immigration bills in Congress. 14 times. That is what he, from Alabama, is devoting his time to. The state of Alabama in so much trouble because of immigrants right now. Life is terrible in Alabama for white people because of immigrants. Alabama has been fighting people that don't look white now for decades and decades and decades, and they've elected somebody in 2011, this guy, or 2010, to carry that torch forward.
Yeah, and also, you know, the Jews have a war on Nazis. Not only is there a democratic war on white people, so it's all. So and also there is David has a war on Goliath.
Yeah.
And I can keep going with this analogy until it gets funny, but.
So keep going because we're not there yet.
All right. So we can have no. There's a war on white. Is there a bigger sympathetic character in United States history than white people? Can there possibly be? That's what you're supposed to have. Oh my God, they're coming after Rich Whitey, who's been shitting on them since the fucking birth of this nation. I can't believe it. Poor Whitey. When is the white people ever going to get their day in the media?
Right.
Yeah, and you know, this is a little bit of the problem of representative government is that, you know, Mo Brooks, and I don't know the makeup of Alabama's 5th district that well, but I'm sure that he is actually representing the views of the demographic of. So the scare tactic gets him elected and gets him elected and gets him elected there. But he is going to be a minority very, very soon, both in actuality, but also in that belief system. It's going to make his party implode.
Yeah.
Well, this is the Jim Crow of our day. I mean, this is that same shit. All this is the people at the Woolworth's lunch counter. This is the bridge with Bull Connor. This is the same shit. People don't like people with darker skin than them, and it's on TV. They get outed. He grabs their hand. It's ugly. We know it's ugly. And by the way, Michael, what have the children of immigrants ever done for America except everything?
Right. Yeah. Other than that, nothing. Yeah. Other than that, nothing.
Except that.
So we have a little more from Mo Brooks. Let's take a look.
The Democrats, they have to demagogue on this and try to turn it into a racial issue, which is an emotional issue, rather than a thoughtful issue. If it becomes a thoughtful issue, then we win and we win big, and they lose and they lose big, and they understand that. And as they get more desperate, where they're going to argue race and things like that to a much heightened emotional state.
The Democrats are making this a racial issue.
Yeah.
The same guy that was on Laura Ingram's show saying that Democrats have launched a war on white people is saying that Democrats are making this a racial issue.
So again, and I'm sure that Brian Williams will report this both sides. I reported both sides of that. The Democrats say he's being a race-baiting idiot, and Republicans say it's the Democrats. Who's really doing it? I guess we'll never fucking know.
Well, I mean,
because I'm a piece of shit named Brian Williams.
No, I'll take issue with that. I mean, they're different. You're here to break that apart.
Yes, thank you.
Brian Williams is there to show you what Mo Brooks felt. He's not saying that what Mo Brooks is doing is right or wrong. He's saying this happened today.
Right.
If he even shows this, I don't know if it's going to make it. He won't show this. This won't make it to Brian.
Because he'd have to comment on it, and he would.
But he wouldn't have to comment on it. He doesn't. That's not his job to comment. His job is to present it, and then for you to comment on it.
Oh, okay. All right.
I mean, I don't think.
But
that's,
it's also there's a way he presents it. You know, like if you're saying, well, he's presenting.
Listen, he's the editor of that news show.
Yes.
Right. So he has a huge hand in deciding what stories are going to be told. Right. If he doesn't think that, now you may think it's wrong not to show this particular story, right? But that's just a decision he makes.
Right,
I mean, there's a lot happening in the news, and this is, to us a big story, to America a big story, but not yet because it's Mo Brooks talking on some, small show, and Mo Brooks isn't anybody's ever heard of.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to what Jimmy was saying about the media representing both sides, I mean, it's important for the media to represent both sides and then decipher which side is lying, which side is being, spreading misinformation. And I think oftentimes, I can't say this about Brian Williams, I don't watch him enough to make that distinction, but you do see that a lot in the press where people are obsessed with being neutral as opposed to objective. right?
That's a great way to put it, Anna. Yes,
that's
people
what you
are
see.
obsessed with being neutral instead of it. That's exactly right. I always like to say there are two sides to the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Report the truth. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't pretend you don't know the truth. And that's my problem. We haven't seen Brian Williams report this story yet, so I don't know how. But I know from watching him that when he would frame a story like this, it would be in a bullshit frame. For instance, I'll give you another example.
I watch him every night. I think he does a hell of a job. I actually do. I think he does a hell of a job. I think that broadcast is on balance great.
Whoa.
He couldn't be worse. That's why they hired him, because he's not going to stop in the middle of the show and go, can you believe this bullshit I'm reading?
But that's not his job, Jimmy. That's not his job to say, can you believe this bullshit? In a time of crisis, in a time of big news, he can sit there and report live news and then inject a little bit of what he's doing.
You mean like during the Iraq War?
No, I'm talking about.
Let me finish. You mean like during the Iraq War?
I don't mean that.
So like a big news. You said big news. I'll pick the biggest story from the last decade.
I'm talking about live broadcasting. I'm talking about when as news happens.
Let me pick the biggest story.
I think you want to pick the biggest story.
Let me pick the biggest story.
I'm going to let you pick the biggest story.
Let me pick the biggest story from the last decade. Thanks for letting me finish my point. The biggest story from the last decade was the Iraq War. Now, Brian Williams routinely brought on guys that were being paid by defense contractors and calling them impartial commentators about the Iraq War. It was proven that they were doing that. It was a big scandal. It wasn't big because Brian Williams never talked about it. So that's how he reported the biggest story from last decade, like a piece of not a good journalist.
First of all, I disagree.
What do you mean he didn't do that?
No, I disagree that
he did that.
You're running with something that I said. I set up. I'm talking about when he's reporting something live as it happens, not when he's doing his broadcast.
All right.
So listen to what I'm saying. If a newsman, if an anchor is anchoring during a crisis, during an assassination, during a flood or a plane crash or a war even, then they inject it. If he's there in the evening telling you what happened that day, showing you video of what happened, today the banking committee took this up, yesterday there were funeral arrangements made for so-and-so, he's telling you that. It could be the most hateful person in the world who's being buried. It's not up to him to say that. It was funeral arrangements for this horrible person.
So I just want to, sorry guys, I just want to quickly go back to the Mo Brooks story, because there is one final piece that I want to give you guys to kind of complete this whole puzzle. So you heard the fear-mongering on Laura Ingraham's show, you heard him, say all these crazy things about undocumented immigrants. Well, he took it to another level while he did another small-time radio show, Will Anderson Radio.
Oh, the Will Anderson Show.
Yeah. Whatever that is. But I want to read this to you because it's important so you understand just how deep the fear-mongering goes, right? Here's what he has to say about undocumented immigrants joining our military. He says these individuals have to be absolutely 100% loyal and trustworthy, referring to people who are in our military, as best as we can make them, because they're going to have access to all sorts of military weaponry. Even to this point of having access to weapons of mass destruction like our nuclear arsenal. He's trying to imply there that if we allow undocumented immigrants to join our military, they will have access to military-grade weaponry and nukes, and they're going to bomb us all. Because nothing says undocumented immigrant better, or violent undocumented immigrant better, than someone who literally leaves their life behind to risk everything and come to our country. And then they want to join the military, where they give up everything, right, to defend us. But they're going to nuke all of us.
And this is a plan they hatched in somewhere in preschool.
It's ridiculous.
They've hatched that plan.
Mo Brooks is one of the most conservative members of Congress. He's a little crazy, a little irresponsible. Hard to believe he's the same guy that brought us Blazing Saddles, but
no, Michael, that was Mel Brooks.
Oh,
yeah. I'm sorry.
All right, guys, let's take a quick break. When we come back, Mitch McConnell's wife has a message for you.
TYT means the Young Turks, and it's a great show, a lively show, and an enlightening show.
Well, I appreciate the Young Turks. You guys are doing a great job. Keep up the great work. Keep them honest up there.
That's like I said, that's why we love having you on all the TYT shows.
Me too. I love all the TYT shows.
You don't indulge in the groupie culture?
No, I don't indulge in the groupie culture.
The groupie culture here must be kind of crazy, right?
And really, I'm so geeked out to be here. I'm like such a child of the internet. I've spent so many years in fucking hotel rooms watching you guys with room service, so it's awesome to be here.
Get ready, mainstream media. You're next in line. We're going to put you down next, mainstream media.
Of course!
Welcome back to the Young Turks. Anna Kasparian, Jimmy Dore, Michael Shore. Thank you so much for filling in for Cenk, guys. You guys
My
are
pleasure.
awesome. That was a fun first hour. I really liked it.
It was great, yeah.
Second hour is going to be even more fun because we're going to get to my favorite story of the day, the history of the vibrator. Really interesting tidbits there.
Really?
Yeah, stuff that I didn't...
Tease us. Get one tease.
How did Cleopatra masturbate at a time when vibrators hadn't been invented yet? I'm going to tell you.
Oh.
Did they have hands back then?
They did, but it was a non-manual way of masturbating.
Okay. Did they
How
have
about
motorcycles and speed bumps? Did
Oh
they have banisters back in ancient
I
Egypt?
think you just got it. Did they have banisters?
No banisters?
What, I don't even know what banisters are.
That's what you hold on to when you go down the steps.
Yeah.
You slide down the banister.
What'd you call it?
Railings.
Yeah, I would call it a railing. I would never call it a banister.
Really?
Yeah, I've never called it
No,
a banister.
a railing is something
It's
different.
something you go that's like around a building. Like
Yeah.
you go like that.
A railing.
I
But
would-
a banister is certainly something on the steps.
Did women like slide down banisters to get off? Is that how they would rub one out?
This is what I understand.
Okay, all right.
Talk about Cleopatra. This is history.
This is
We'll talk about
history.
history.
We have a very substantive second hour, but in all honesty, we
It's
do.
not too because I'd have to go right back up the steps and come back down again.
All right. We start off with something pretty serious, actually. It has to do with our privacy rights and pedophilia. So let's get right into it. Google has the power to scan through your email to see whether or not there is information that they can use to do targeted advertising toward you. But now they've actually joined forces with local police departments and federal officials in order to catch you if you have any imagery or any type of messages that depict children being abused, specifically child pornography. So let me give you some examples. Now, according to Forbes, technology giant Google has developed state-of-the-art software which proactively scours hundreds of millions of email accounts for images of child abuse. The breakthrough means pedophiles around the world will no longer be able to store and send vile images via email without the risk of their crimes becoming known to the authorities. Details of the software emerged after a 41-year-old convicted sex offender was arrested in Texas, Houston specifically, for possession of child abuse images. Now, that portion of the story was actually originally reported by The Telegraph, but it does bring up a really interesting debate because when it comes to new technology, when it comes to the digital era, a lot of people are concerned about our privacy rights. But if our privacy rights are being violated in order to catch people who are guilty of child abuse or pedophilia, should we allow those rights to kind of fall by the wayside?
Well, the story goes even...
You're tweeting during the show.
No. The story goes even further because I'm very up on this story. First of all, the way you said Google has the power to read your emails. They are reading your emails. Not only do they have the power, they're using it. And on every email, which is how they get those targeted ads when you go around the internet. Oh, look at that. How did they know that I wanted to buy shit to make me look less bald? How do they know that? Because I wrote it in an email. And so I don't use the Gmail anymore. And I know they own YouTube, which is where this show airs, but that is the overreach, creepy, Orwellian thing. So I can't believe people still use Gmail. Do you use it?
I do use Gmail. Yeah, I mean, I'm
It's
kind
my
of
junk email. Like I give it
Oh,
out,
okay.
and I use it. Like if I'm filling out a sweepstakes, they get my Gmail address.
Oh yeah,
That's really interesting.
I still use Yahoo, but
I use Yahoo too.
The interesting thing about this I found was that there's kind of a moral dilemma, right, with child pornography. They found that the more pornography there is in a society, the less sexual violence there is in a society, and especially for pedophiles, they found this out, that pedophilia goes down if they're allowed to have exposure to what they consider child pornography. Now, here's an interesting thing about child pornography. If you're an of-age person and you dress yourself up to look like you're underage and do a porno, that's still illegal. You're not supposed to be depicting an underage person. So the moral thing is like, well, wait a minute. So there's this whole problem of Google knowing what our emails are and then sharing it with law enforcement. But there's the bigger problem of now is this actually hurting? Are we going to have more child sexual victims because we're prosecuting child pornography, right? Am I out of my mind on this?
No, I think you're taking a little. Yes, if in fact pornography goes, or sexual violence and predatory behavior goes down, and pedophilia goes down when they're exposed to pornography and child pornography, there's still children who are in child pornography.
Yeah.
So of course that's not going to be your remedy to this crime. This is a bad thing in general, but out of some bad things come good results too. And if they're able to get some of these, especially the traffickers of this, through this,
invasion
the
of
three of us
privacy.
are not going to change the fact that they're invading the privacy or that they have the capability of doing so. Then, if it can be put to a good use like this, maybe it's one good use, well, then you should at least do this.
So
I think.
my question is, where does Google draw the line, though? Because there are a number of different things that are considered illegal. So when does Google decide, hey, you know what, this crime is more serious than that crime? So if we find that someone is selling drugs, well, we're going to let that go,
Right.
Yeah.
We're not going to deal with that. Instead, we're just going to deal with...
It's a squiggly line of law enforcement.
Right, and also you have to keep in mind that it's not just people in the United States using Google or Gmail. You have people in other countries using Gmail, and they have different laws on the books. So how do you determine whether or not a law is something that you agree with? Because as an official at Google, you might have the service available in a country where they might do something like, I don't know, oppress women, or, do crazy things against gay people. Like you have certain laws in African countries where it's a crime to have gay sex and you're going to be locked behind bars. So if someone sends out an email to their gay lover, do you turn them in? You know what I mean? I don't know if I feel comfortable with Google policing our activities, even though, of course, I don't agree with child pornography or pedophilia. These people should be behind bars. But I just don't like the idea of a software program deciding whether or not someone is doing something illegal.
Basically, it goes back to the idea of reporting a crime when you see it. And this exists, and it can be debated because it's not like walking by your neighbor's home and see him punch his wife in the face. What do you do in that situation? Well, more than likely you report it. Maybe you don't, but you see it. The same thing here with Google. I mean, they stumble upon this through whatever matrices they have that are going through all of this email, and they see pornographic pictures of children. Is it incumbent upon them to report it? Probably. If they're employing this technology, that's a whole other issue. Should they have this? Should they use it? I don't think so. But if they are using it and they found legal ways of doing it, then I think it is incumbent upon them to report some of these things.
Yeah. I mean, that is a tough position, right? Because if you become aware of a crime, you have to report it.
Right.
It's part of your duty and the whole thing. I just want to make that one point about, you made the point that if there's child pornography, there's a child involved. But according to the story, like I said before,
there are sometimes people who dress
grown-up
up,
people who look, or even computer-generated images. That's also illegal.
No, I know, but we have seen real children. I mean, we have seen it in report after report. Right. Real children, people who have been abducted here in this country, taken to other countries, what have you. So it exists,
Right. What if? So
I didn't know that law, by the way. That I didn't know that if you dress somebody up, what about like all those like the cheerleader porn that's out there and things like that? Is
you
that
would
not,
think, right? So maybe they're dressed. They say, "Oh, we're dressed up like college cheerleaders." Maybe that's what they say to get around
like
it.
Trent Lott and George Bush?
Yeah. yes. Maybe
college cheerleaders.
College cheerleaders.
Yeah.
So I think you got to be. This comes down to the problem of you have to make a decision. Do I want to use Gmail? That, to me, it's not illegal what Google's doing. You know that they're doing that. Don't use Gmail. What are you, nuts to use Gmail? You got to be nuts to use Gmail, especially if you're a child pornographer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I use Gmail, and the reason why I use Gmail is because I really don't have anything to hide, right?
Yeah.
But I don't like the fact that they go through my email. And it's not like one individual sitting in a dark room, like checking every single email you're writing. It is a software program. They look for keywords. And the whole point of it originally was to sell advertisements.
Yes.
But now it's gone further than that. And anytime we do a story about the NSA reading our emails or the NSA violating our privacy, Google will be one of the first companies to come out and say, this is ridiculous. We can't believe that this is happening. But you're working with authorities.
Right.
You're giving them information about us. So you're in cahoots with them. Don't deny it. Don't pretend like you're outraged. This is what's happening. This is the age of new media and the digital era, and it's the high price that we pay for doing things online.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
It's a high price. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, like Anna said, it's only a high price if you're, someone who's,
I guess,
susceptible to the prices. I mean, if Anna's not doing anything.
What if someone is, say, hypothetically, caught illegally selling weed to his friends? You know what I mean? Like,
that's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Can you get me an eighth? I know you have a medical marijuana card. Sure. Oh, you're
does
going
Google
to jail.
turn them in?
You get turned in. I'm going to guess they wouldn't turn those people in because then that would really be bad for Gmail. I think that would make everyone stop using Gmail.
Yeah.
Right. God, we can't make our drug deals on it anymore.
Well, that's a great point, though, Jimmy. I mean, because there comes a certain point. Child pornographers, right? That's fine. The hell with them.
Right.
I mean, and Gmail doesn't want their business anyway. Take your custom elsewhere, right? But when it comes to potheads, it's a totally different segment of the population, and I think that we will all have a collective feeling about when it becomes too much. And I know that's a slippery slope, like we said, but in this case, what is it? Who was it? Powell that said that about
Colin Powell?
No, Lewis
son?
Powell. Who was the who wrote the decision about what pornography, and we know it when we see it, but
it offends lacks artistic merit and appeals to the prurient interest.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. All right.
All right. Let's move on to Meghan McCain.
Sounds like this show.
All right.
Meghan McCain.
Recently, Glenn Beck was talking about his experiences on Fox News and how remorseful he was for saying some pretty stupid things. If you don't remember the clip, take a quick look.
When you live your life.
Watching this Meghan McCain video where she's naked, and I just. Oh boy.
When you live your life 5 hours a day on live television or radio, you're going to say stupid things. And you're going to say things because you do it in your cubicle. You do it on the air, I'm sure.
Sure, people do it on GChat. People do it on Facebook.
We do it.
They just don't do it from a national podium.
That's right.
So he seems pretty remorseful there, and he has a long record of saying some pretty terrible things about lots of different people. One of those people is Meghan McCain. And recently, Meghan McCain took issue with his apology on her own show called Take Part Live on Pivot TV. Here's her response to Glenn Beck's very broad apology. Take a look.
Well, I need to preface this by saying Glenn Beck and I have a long, storied history with one another for a very long time. And the most fucked up, disgusting, worst, most insulting things anyone has ever said about me, hands down ever in my entire life, came out of this man's mouth. So what I want to know is, does he regret that? My thing with this now is, like, what you say on TV matters, no matter who you are. And if you're the type of person that's going to divide America, which I believe Glenn Beck has played a part in doing, are you now taking culpability? Because Ann Coulter and all these people, what you say, Americans listen to, and right now, my party is completely and utterly divided, and we are losing elections, and I believe it's this man's fault to a degree. My other thing is the things he has said to me, my response, I was like, you have daughters. Do you ever think about what they're going to think or what you're saying about women and to women in the media? I'm just glad that I have a father that has never done anything like that. If Glenn Beck wants to come on this show, I'm happy to have a conversation with him. I think pigs will fly out my ass sooner than that man will come on my show, but we can try.
All right. And so she's upset because there was one instance where she did a PSA about skin cancer, and his reaction was ridiculous. Let's take a quick look at the PSA, and then I'll show you his reaction.
My mother would be so ashamed. Don't be one of 20 people who will die today from skin cancer. If you leave the house without sunscreen, you might as well be naked. To learn how to protect yourself from this deadly disease, go to mystyle.com.
All right. And then Glenn Beck's response was...
Watching this Meghan McCain video where she's naked, and I just... Oh boy. Wow. That's... Yeah, it's... I'm having multiple times. And that...
Are you still looking at the Meghan McCain? Because that should...
It's kind of amazing that you have, like, this middle-aged man who is, by the way, not the most attractive person on the planet, talking shit about someone much younger than him who has done absolutely nothing wrong to him. How unbelievably immature and
who has daughters.
And who has daughters and, like, completely unaware is this guy. Like, has he looked in the mirror? Does he think that he's the hottest guy on the planet? Really? I mean, I have a visceral reaction every time I hear his name, right?
So you would say, I would say, to use Michael's word, that he is odious. That Glenn Beck is odious.
Yeah, he's the lowest of the low.
The lowest of the low. And of course, no, he doesn't care the effects that happen to his daughter because he's a complete narcissist. And if you want to know what a narcissist looks and sounds like, it's Glenn Beck personified. He is narcissism personified, willing to say or do, or remember when he used to cry all the time when that worked?
Yeah.
And then people got hip to it, so he stopped crying. He doesn't fucking cry anymore, the big bullshitter. So that's what this is, and now he's like, oh, now he's not in the news anymore, so now he has to come out and say, hey, I was wrong. I was dividing the country to get more attention. So this is all, again, narcissism, getting attention. And what's sad is how many people fall for this guy, right? People go, oh, you got to listen to this guy, Glenn Beck. I've met those people from my old neighborhood. And it's sad he actually has an influence on people. They fired Shirley Sherrod because they were afraid what Glenn Beck was going to say, for fuck's sake. Yeah. And now look at this guy. He's doing that. He's the worst of morning DJs, right? Yeah. And the worst of political bought and paid for people. He's the worst of all things combined, and yet he's given a platform by Rupert Murdoch, the guy who owns all media everywhere.
That's exactly right. You couldn't have said much more. I mean, he's not alone in that classification, but he is really bad. I mean, there are other people in that pool with him, though.
I just feel like in his little apology video on CNN, it just seems as though it's insincere. He doesn't mean what he's saying. It seems like really, really bad acting.
Well, I don't know that. I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I didn't buy it at all, but I don't know that there's any way that he could apologize where I would believe that he was really remorseful. So, I mean, there's no, like, if that was real, it may have been real, but there's nothing he could say that makes me believe that he really is remorseful and not doing it because it's part of his show.
He's just doing that for ratings.
Exactly.
He's doing that so we'll talk about him. He's doing that because he's a narcissist, because he needs attention.
Yeah.
And that he'll do anything to get it, including dressing up with a bow tie and glasses and looks like the Wells Fargo wagon man is coming. I don't know what he's been dressing like lately, but that's him. And have you seen his microphone? What this? It's like his microphone is handicapped or something. I don't know if you've seen it.
Give it a gun.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
All right, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, the history of vibrators, super fascinating information about that and female sexuality. And then later on, we will talk about a hotel that will charge guests an insane amount of money if they write a bad review about them. Stick around. You liked that, didn't you?
All right. If you want the whole show, you like it even more, go to TYTnetwork.com. Go under member options, and you can get the whole show anytime you like.